complaints panel are here to present the resident voice and ensure that the residents' concerns are being taken into account. We get feedback from local residents, in particular the estates, because they're more of a close-knit community, where they have concerns about how complaints are being handled and they want these addressed. So I think the complaints panel has an agenda to voice those, put forward any suggestions from residents, including themselves, try and influence things, you know, how things are handled, policies that are put in place, and just overall ensure that complaints are being handled in the right way, but in a timely fashion. For me, it works very well. They do tend to arrange things around my timings, which is really, for me, very key because of how busy things are for me. My view on improvements has been a little bit slow. There was a point where I just considered that the complaints panel were just a tick box exercise, you know? So, because we didn't seem to be doing a great deal. But over I would say the last year and a half, things have really progressed and our voice has really been heard, in particular through the innovations that Southern have made, i.e. the I call it a one-stop shop. I believe the Southern Housing call it one front door. Yes. So in particular, that one has been quite a pattern on the complaints panel that we've been asking for, you know, a single person to deal with our complaints. And it makes sense, you know, it really makes sense. So I now see how we are progressing and how the complaints panel their voice has been heard, and it continues to be heard, in particular, again, around communication. We've constantly made suggestions on the tone of communications, in particular, empathy, perhaps language that can be seen as threatening rather than persuasive, you know, and the housing have really listened and, you know, their communications have really, really improved. The last couple of meetings that we've had, we've all voiced the same thing, that it's so great to finally see things progressing, moving along and improving. So I think every one of our complaint panel members at the moment feels very justified in their participation. If you're offering a service to a customer or a client, whatever you want to call them, or a resident, we are your end result. Whatever you do is the end result that affects us, yes? So why shouldn't we have a say in that? How it's done, what it should be, and what the end result is, you know? The end result is always going to be what we want. So, and we're not silly, we understand that what we want is not always possible, but that's always a negotiation, always a conversation, and the best way to do those things are through panels like this. For us as a panel, we have seen that people can change or companies can change and their views of how they do things and the way they do things can be influenced by their end customer, their client, their resident. And as the resident, I would absolutely love to say that Southern have really stepped up. I mean, since this merger, things have just gone leaps and bounds in the right direction. And I do credit the complaints panel in particular with a lot of the improvements that have been made. But I also say thank you to Southern for listening and taking things forward. For the future for the complaints panel, I'd like to see us continuing this relationship, continuing to work together to improve the service that Southern give, but also to get those complaints down, to get things done right first time, and just onwards and upwards for me.